In 1934, the gas industry ran an advertising campaign with the slogan, "Cooking with gas." It worked. By the 1970s, more than half of American homes cooked with gas. The phrase became a compliment in everyday speech. Things were going well, they were cooking with gas. In 2023, the city of Berkeley, California became the first place in the United States to ban natural gas hookups in most new buildings. By 2024, more than 70 other cities had followed. Some have since reversed, some have not. The fight over gas stoves became, briefly, one of the loudest culture war issues in the country. Imagine you're on the city council of a mid-sized American town. Tonight there's a vote. Should new buildings in your town be required to be all electric? You have one shot. The decision will outlast your time on the council by decades. This video is about how the tools from Module 1 turn that decision from a guess into a thinking process. Let's run it. The first thing to notice: the 5 videos before this one didn't give you 5 different methods. They gave you 4 different lenses for looking at the same situation, plus 1 discipline for staying honest about all 4. Step 1. Scan the cone. What are the probable, plausible, possible, and preferable futures here? Step 2. Trace the system. What is this decision connected to that isn't obvious? Where are the loops? Step 3. Notice the time assumption. Am I thinking on the right timescale? Whose timescale am I borrowing without realizing it? Step 4. Locate your agency. What inside this picture can I actually move? Where is the room to maneuver? And throughout, check yourself for the 5 biases. The decision in front of you tonight: a ban on natural gas in new buildings. We're going to walk it through all 4 lenses. The point isn't whether the answer is yes or no. The point is what the mental motion looks like in practice. Once you've done it once with someone watching, you can do it for yourself, on your own decision, in about 20 minutes. Step 1. Scan the cone. What's probable, given current trends? Slow, voluntary electrification. Some new buildings go electric, most don't. Mostly happens in coastal blue cities, where electricity is cleaner and contractors are familiar with heat pumps. No big change in the next decade. What's plausible? Regional mandates spread, the way seatbelt laws spread state by state in the 1980s. By 2035, maybe half of new construction in the US is all electric, mostly because state-level codes shifted, not because of national politics. What's possible? A few more dramatic paths. Federal rule, if the right court rulings line up, or a strong cultural backlash and rollback in many of the cities that already passed bans. Both are real possibilities. Neither is the most likely. And what's preferable? That's the question this council vote is actually about. The probable, plausible, and possible bans describe what will probably happen with or without you. The preferable line is the one your vote tonight can move. Here's the thing the cone shows you that a normal political debate doesn't. Most of the conversation in the council chamber is going to be people fighting about the probable ban. Will gas stoves stick around? Will heat pumps work in our climate? Will costs come down? That's not the most important question. The most important question is the one with the smallest political volume. Which preferable future is your vote actually pointing at? Step 2. Trace the system. This is the lesson from video 1.2. Nothing happens by itself. The vote tonight doesn't just affect gas stoves. It connects to electricity demand on the local grid, to the cost of building new homes, which connects to housing supply, which connects to who can afford to live in your town. It connects to indoor air quality, especially for children with asthma. It connects to the financial position of the local gas utility, which has stranded asset problems if too much new construction goes electric. And, this is the important one, there's a loop. Higher builder costs reduce housing supply. Reduced supply makes housing less affordable. Affordability becomes a political issue. Political backlash makes the next building code rule harder, which feeds back into the calculation about builder costs. That loop is invisible if you only look at the gas stove. It's the most important thing on the diagram. A second-order effect that won't come up in the debate. If your town requires heat pumps in new construction, demand for heat pump installers in your region goes up. Either they get trained in your town, in which case you've created jobs, or the labor shortage spikes builder costs, in which case you've made housing less affordable. Which one happens depends entirely on whether the local community college or trade union has the program ready. That's the kind of thing that matters, and almost nobody will mention at the council meeting. You'll recognize this. The systems loop from video 1.2, the Brazil Coffee Kenya video. It's worth pausing here to notice. The gas stove decision has the same shape as the coffee story. A change in one place, a delay, a second-order effect somewhere else, a feedback loop you didn't see coming. The shape of how change actually moves is more constant than the topic. That's why systems thinking is the most reusable skill in the whole course. Step 3. Notice the time assumption. The developer in front of you tonight is thinking in 5 years. That's the ROI horizon on the building they're about to put up. To them, the gas connection is cheaper today. The question of whether the gas connection becomes a stranded asset in 20 years is somebody else's problem. The future homeowner is thinking in 30 years. That's the mortgage. To them, the question is total cost of ownership over the life of the home. Which appliance has cheaper fuel over 30 years depends on a lot of variables. Mostly the answer is the electric one. The grandchild of whoever lives in that building is thinking, well, isn't thinking. They don't exist yet. But the carbon released by that gas connection over its life is in their atmosphere. The infrastructure built around it is in their inheritance. All three of those timeframes are inside the same vote tonight. The question is whose timeframe you're optimizing for, and whether you've been honest about choosing. Remember the lesson from video 1.3. The default Western political timescale is the election cycle. 2 years, 4 years, sometimes 6. The Haudenosaunee timescale is 7 generations, about 170 years. A building put up tonight will, on average, stand for about 100 years, which is to say, the timescale of the building is closer to the 7th generation question than to the election cycle. The vote is being decided on the wrong timescale. Almost always is. Step 4. Locate your agency. The lesson from video 1.4. You can't move the price of natural gas. You can't move federal energy policy from a council seat. You can't move what the gas utility decides about its infrastructure. Those things are weather. They will do what they're going to do. You can move the local building code. You can move the permitting timeline, so heat pump installations are faster than gas installations, regardless of which is required. You can move the local community college program toward training installers. You can move the public framing of the issue from culture war to public health by attaching the rule to indoor air quality data. That overlap zone, what you can move and what actually matters, is small. It's also exactly where preferable futures get built. Always. And notice, and this is the harder lesson, the agency move is rarely the dramatic vote. The vote is the visible event. The agency move is mostly upstream of the vote. Did the training program exist? Did the permitting office understand what an all-electric package looks like? Did the public health argument get made before the culture war argument crowded it out? By the time you're sitting on the dais tonight, 80% of what happens next has already been decided. Your agency was real, but it was bigger 6 months ago. Most agency is. That's why preferable futures take long fights and small groups doing boring work, the way video 1.4 walked through. Last lens. The bias check from video 1.5. Linear thinking. Are heat pumps in the linear band or the doubling band? Mostly doubling. Costs have come down about a third in the last decade, and efficiency is still climbing. If your forecast assumes today's heat pump prices, you're already wrong. Recency. Natural gas was extraordinarily cheap from 2010 to 2022. That's why the gas industry won the framing fight for so long. The longer history, including the 1970s, is much more volatile. Recency was doing more work than people thought. Normalcy. Natural gas as the default cooking fuel is only about 80 years old. It feels permanent. It isn't. Availability. The dominant news framing has been culture war. The medical evidence about gas stoves and childhood asthma has been around for decades. The latter didn't drive the conversation. That's availability bias in operation. Careful. We don't yet know which way this fight will be remembered. It could be Berkeley's clean air leadership. It could be regulatory overreach that hurt working people. Right now, both are still in the cone. Don't pretend you know which one wins. What's the mental motion supposed to feel like by now? Calm. A little slower than the conversation around you. You're not racing to a position. You're looking at 4 different layers of the same picture and noticing where they agree, where they disagree, and where you're tempted to collapse the cone. That feeling is the discipline. Once you've felt it on someone else's decision, you can feel it on your own. Put it together. Scan the cone. The probable is slow voluntary electrification. The preferable, if you want it, is faster and more equitable. Trace the system. The dangerous loop is builder costs feeding back into affordability and political backlash. That loop kills the policy if you don't address it. Notice the time. The building lasts 100 years. The council debate is operating on a 4-year timescale. Mismatch. Locate the agency. The real lever is upstream. Training, permitting speed, the framing, not the dramatic vote. Bias check. You are probably being moved by recency, availability, and a little bit of normalcy. Adjust for each. That's the integrated picture. It doesn't tell you how to vote tonight. It tells you what the vote is actually about and where the levers are and which of your own instincts to distrust. The council member who has run this motion in her head before the meeting is going to vote differently from the one who hasn't. Not necessarily a different yes or no, a different attachment to the vote, a different sense of what comes after the vote, a different sense of whether the work, in any case, is mostly already done. That's foresight in operation. It's not a forecast. It's a way of being awake while you decide. The case study, last time for this module. What does the 4-step motion look like for the future of food? Quick version. Scan the cone, probable, consolidated industrial agriculture continuing roughly as it is, with climate stress and concentration accelerating. Plausible, real disruption from drought-resilient crops, alternative proteins, and regional supply chain shifts. Preferable, depends on you. Trace the system. The dangerous loop is industrial monoculture, making climate stress worse, which makes the monoculture brittle, which crashes supply, which spikes prices, which creates political pressure that the existing system can't respond to, except by doubling down on industrial scale. That loop is global. It's already running. Time. The conversation in most countries is on an annual budget cycle. The relevant cycle for food is closer to a generation, about 30 years to switch out farming infrastructure. Mismatch. Agency, small. Local food policy, school food procurement, community gardens. Useful, but not enough alone. The bigger levers are international, trade rules, agricultural subsidies, fertilizer logistics. Most people don't have access to them, but the small levers compound when enough small groups pull them in the same direction. Bias check. Most people are heavy on availability, what they see on shelves, and light on the longer-term systemic data. Most people are heavy on recency, assuming the cheap food era continues, and light on the longer history of food volatility. That's how the motion runs against the recurring case. Same 4 steps, different scale, same shape. The big lesson of the synthesis. The mental motion is identical regardless of topic. Gas stoves, food systems, your career, your kids' education, a house you might buy, a business you might start, a move to a new city. Anything that has a horizon of more than a few years deserves the 4-step motion. Most of life will not get it. Foresight is partly the practice of giving the motion to the few decisions that deserve it. Your micro task for this whole module. Pick one real decision in your life with a horizon of 5 years or more. A career move, a house, whether to have a child, a move to a new town, starting a business, a change in your relationship, something where the consequences will outlast at least one full cycle of seasons many times over. Sit down with a notebook or a screen for about 20 minutes. Run the 4 steps. What's probable, plausible, possible, and preferable? What system is this connected to that isn't obvious? What's the loop? Whose timescale am I borrowing? Where's my actual agency, and how much of it is upstream of the decision itself? 20 minutes. The point is not to arrive at the right answer. The point is to feel the motion. Once it's familiar, you'll be able to do it in 5. One thing to expect. The first time you do this, it will feel slow and a little awkward. You will second-guess your bands. You will sketch a system map that misses 2 important nodes. You will forget the bias check until you're already done. That's fine. The motion is a skill. Skills get faster. What changes most isn't the speed, it's the texture of your attention. After about 3 of these, you start to notice the cone, whether you mean to or not. The world stops looking like one thing and starts looking like one of several things, with you somewhere inside, deciding. That's the move. That's the whole point of Module 1. 3 takeaways for this video and for the module. 1. The tools work best together, not separately. The cone of plausibility alone is just a diagram. Systems thinking alone is just a vocabulary. Time frame awareness alone is just a thought experiment. Agency without bias checking is just optimism. The 5 videos are 5 layers of the same lens. 2. A 5-year decision deserves a 30-minute think. Most adults make most of their longest horizon decisions in less time than they spend choosing a restaurant. That's not because the decisions don't matter. It's because the cultural permission to slow down on them barely exists. You have to give that permission to yourself. 3. Foresight is a mental motion, not a method. The 4 steps will fade, the motion will not. 2 years from now, you will have forgotten the order of the 4 steps. You will still feel, in front of any long horizon decision, the instinct to widen the cone before narrowing it. That instinct is the gift of this module. That's the end of Module 1. What we did in this module, we took the lens out of the case, we held it up, we turned it slowly, looking at 5 different facets. We practiced once. What comes next is harder and more practical. Module 2 is about what you actually do with the lens once you're wearing it. The skill of scanning the world for the signals that matter. How to read the news without being driven crazy by it. How to find the things that matter early enough to act on. If Module 1 was the lens, Module 2 is the looking. See you in Module 2.